fogginess. Sequel pure.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Just a few house cleaning items. We will get to as many questions as we can. Coach Clifford will be available after shoot around, and I believe you have all been sent the link for that. And then after tonight's game, we will get as many of our new players as possible on our post-game Zoom. So with that, we will get started. Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com.
Jeff, I know the decision to reset is never an easy one. Just talk about what was the strategy behind it and how you came to the decision to make the moves you made yesterday.
It obviously is a major decision for the organization, and we don't take that lightly. Weeks, months, of discussing this stuff. But we didn't set out on this path when we came into the season. We felt that we would be a playoff team this season for the third straight year. I actually thought we could be a home court team, and it's funny now that I see the way the season's playing out in the East. I'm even more of that mind that we could have been a home court team, and this could be the year that we kind of advance in the playoffs. And we started out, I think 6-2. But stuff happens, right? And so we got punched in the nose by literally an NBA historic wave of injuries, and so that changes everything. It changes the way that the team has to plan. It changes the season. It changes beyond the season, and it changes the mindset. So in this business, you have to constantly be able to pivot. You have to stay fluid as much as possible. And it's not easy to try to walk two paths, but that's what we've been trying to do. And we went into this trade deadline with the dual tasks of trying to improve our team or trying to look for opportunities to restart it. And when these opportunities presented themselves, we felt that in conjunction with one another, they presented us a really exciting new path to take. And that's what we did. And so we're on a new path now, and I'm really excited about where we're headed. And I think that this is going to be a great new start for the team, and that there are great things ahead of us.
Josh Robbins, The Athletic.
Jeff, do you think that receiving two players back, two lightly protected first-round picks, is enough of a return for a two-time All-Star who has two full seasons remaining on his contract?
Well, obviously, Josh, no deals are made in a vacuum. And let me first say that, we wish Vuce nothing but the best. And I know that all three of those guys are going to have success. They're all very good players. They're all very good people. And they're going to have a lot of success with their new teams. And that's what we hope for them. And that's what we expect for them. Obviously, we thought it was enough because we did the deal. But I would say this, that, we got two first-round picks, which are very, very coveted assets in today's NBA. And someone said to me after the dust had settled that there were only 3 first-round picks conveyed yesterday, and they were all conveyed to the Orlando Magic. And we also got Wendell Carter, who's a soon-to-be 22-year-old young developing player who's on a rookie contract and has his whole career to unfold in front of him. So those are 3 very significant NBA assets. And I hate to call players assets because players are players, and Wendell is supposed to be, by all accounts, a remarkable person. And so we're really excited about that trade, and to be able to turn Vuce, who is going to play at age 31 next year and have 2 years remaining on his contract, into 3 assets that will remain with us, for years, and have flexibility and give us all the optionality that we now possess going forward, was a good trade for us, we believe. So while we wish Vuce the best, we're really excited to bring in Wendell, and obviously that trade was done in conjunction with others, and we've completely reset our cap flexibility, our list of assets, and we now have enough arrows in the quiver where we can strike out on multiple paths.
Tim Reynolds, Associated Press.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, Tim.
Jeff, there are 30 teams and 30 teams run their business 30 different ways. The
Mhm.
one consistent trend in this league is very few of you tend to be patient. You're embarking on a process that will require it. How difficult, I know it's tough to forecast because you're only in day 2, but how difficult will that be to accept that this is not an overnight, this is not a quick fix?
Well, I think that the fans that follow us closely know that we are a team that has been patient. We will be patient, and we believe in continuity. So we will not put a timeline on anything. We will do this the right way, as we always do, and we will use every avenue at our disposal to improve our team. And I've said from the day I got here, we're looking to build a sustainable winning team. And I'm very excited about where we are right now, because I think we've put ourselves in a position to, deal from a position of strength. It's hard. It's hard when you're on the phone and you're backed up against the tax and your contracts are expiring and your guys are getting older. And, those are not good places to deal from when you're trying to move your team forward. So we're now in a position of much greater flexibility. And I won't put a timeline on it, but I can say that we have a lot of different ways to improve, and we'll have to obviously look for partners as we go and figure out how that looks.
Okay,
Thanks, Jeff.
Brandon Kravitz, 96.9 the game.
Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I'm going to say what everybody says. You would think we'd have that figured out by now. You said that you were confident that if everything went right this year, if the team remained healthy, you had Fultz, you had Isaac, that this is a team that not only would make the playoffs, but possibly could even host playoff games as a home team. How hard is it to then pivot when you felt so confident that this team will be good enough to compete next year? What went into that thinking is where next year you were going to be able to compete, but instead you pulled the plug?
Well, I've said this before, but this ain't fantasy league. It's not a matter of because we would have done it this year, this happens next year. Contracts get shorter, players get older, financial situations get more compressed. You don't get to just run it back. So, it's our jobs to keep our fingers on the pulse of the team, understand where their mindset is. These are very, very competitive, ambitious athletes who want to win, and they have a short window to do it. And when you face what we've faced this season, it changes the complexion. It changes the complexion. So you don't just get to hit like the reset button and say, well, we'll just do it again next year. You guys know that financially we were going to be in a tight spot. We probably couldn't bring back the exact same team, even had we desired to. And so you've got to stay fluid. You've got to be able to pivot. And so I don't look at it as being a hard decision. I look at it as being the right decision. And you have to be detached enough to understand how we're positioned today, how we're positioned going forward, how fragile we are, what our margin is. So I could say like, well, if we could patch it together and bring it back, but one injury and boom, we're right back to where we are again. And now Vuce is going to be 32 the following year, and AG's on an expiring contract. So these are all things that you have to factor in. And frankly, our plan had been to build on that team, get a playoff series victory under our belts and grow from there. But in all candor, we have to also accept the fact that that our core was aging, the contracts were shortening, and ultimately, was this a team that was going to win a championship? We had to ask ourselves that question. And I feel today that we've put ourselves in a position to, obviously, we're going to go through a rebuild. I will not put a timetable on how that's going to look. We're going to look at deals as they come. We're going to go after players as they become available. But I do believe we're in a position, given our flexibility, given the abundance of assets that we now have at our disposal, given the reset of our timeline of our players, that we can start to think about how we can build this out towards winning a title.
Jamie Say, WKMG TV.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
You
Jamie.
mentioned that these guys are competitive and they want to win now. I'm just wondering, did Vooch ever go to you and express any kind of frustration, or did he ever go to you asking for a different scenario?
Well, Jamie, I would never disclose, private conversations between, myself and any of our players. But I will say this, though, it is our job to keep our fingers on the pulse of the team. And I do believe that given what we've gone through this year with the injuries and just the nature of the injuries, this isn't just one injury, it's a bunch of them. And it's not just like a small injury, it's a bunch of significant injuries. And what that does to the team, and obviously you're looking through a prism of absorbing all these losses. And Vooch is 30, he's going to be 31 next year when he plays. And so all of the guys, I think there was a feeling of, is it getting a little stagnant, and no one I would say would I'm not going to divulge those sorts of, private conversations, but I think the overriding sense that we were kind of getting was a sense of frustration. And I think that factored in a little bit to our decision making. But ultimately, it's our job to understand the mindset of our team, and pull back from that, and then weigh all of the different elements that we're facing and the timelines that we're facing, and try to do what's best for our fans, what's best for our organization in our goal to win an NBA championship.
Philip Rossman-Reich, Orlando Magic Daily.
Hey, Jeff, this is sort of a two-part question. First, how are Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz going along in their recovery process, and how much did that progress or where you think they are and where they will be for next year kind of play into this decision to hit the reset button and sort of turn the franchise over to them as kind of the only longstanding contracts left on the team?
Yep. Well, you guys know I never put timetables on injuries, and obviously I can tell you this: they're in every day, and you who follow the team closely know what exceptional people they are and what exceptional workers they are. So they're getting after it. They're in every day, and smiles on their faces, and kind of looking forward to getting back. That said, it's a good question, Philip, because these are significant injuries, and we won't put a timeline on it. They're going to get back to full recovery, but how exactly that looks, it's too soon to say the specifics of the timeline like that. And let's be honest, Jonathan missed a season, and then he played a short time, and now he's going to miss another season. So that's another factor. So yeah, it is a good question, because it does enter into the math, right? This is all just math at the end of the day, and it enters into how we have to approach where we are, a clear-eyed assessment of our team, of our immediate prospects, and what that means to our long-range prospects. So it's a really good question, and it does play into your decision making.
Okay, just a reminder, we will get to as many questions as possible, but we do have a little bit of a time limit. We will go to Aaron Goldstone, Pinstripe Post.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning.
Good morning.
In the Evan Fournier deal, your team received 2 future second-round picks and created a traded player exception.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that return from Boston? And is it safe to say, I guess, the prize of that deal would be the traded player exception you created? How could you use that to the team advantage, creating flexibility moving forward?
Well, without drilling too deep into the mechanics, traded player exception can be a very valuable asset. As we saw yesterday, the Boston Celtics were able to acquire Evan Fournier. That being said, Evan was on an expiring contract. So, Evan will play for them for 2 months, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. They will have his bird rights. And we were in a position coming into the season where we valued Evan's bird rights, because Evan's a good player and he's a good guy. And to be able to, so bird rights for you can sign a guy beyond your exceptions with bird rights. So as we looked at what we were doing in the larger scheme of yesterday, we felt that it didn't make any sense to make, those other two trades and not move Evan. So at that point, once we struck out on this path, the thinking is that let's get what we can for Evan. And, 2 second-round picks, you never know. They'll always have value. They have asset value. And the trade exception could be of significant value, but you never know. We'll see what it becomes. But obviously, as players move along in their contracts and have less time remaining, they become less valuable to the receiving team. And by the way, that's not just true of Evan. The clock is ticking on all those guys. So when you talk about AG, when you talk about Vooch, right? And you talk about well, we'll just push it back to next year. Well, next year, they don't have the same value to other teams, And so these are all factors that come in. The one thing about this league, it doesn't stand still, and the clock is ticking, And so when you see a chance to strike and feel that deals are lining up, and it's not easy to line up multiple deals in one cycle, I think that you have to act, and that's what we did.
Okay, Pat Welter, Spectrum Sports.
Morning, Jeff. You talk about assets. You got a pretty valuable one here in this year's draft pick. Got a chance to maybe land a number 1 pick, top 5 pick. How pivotal is landing a star with that pick to the success of this rebuild?
That's how NBA titles are won. You don't win titles without stars, and obviously. We're not going to be worried about our draft pick right now. We're worried about the young guys on our roster and putting them in a position to succeed and for us to evaluate them and kind of learn them and how we can best help them grow and develop. But clearly, top 5 picks in this league are probably the most coveted asset of all. And we'll see how we finish the season. We're going to try to be organized. We're going to try to win games, but you're right. Right now, we do sit in a position where we're going to be, probably significant players in the lottery if it were to be frozen today. And we'll see what that brings. We're not going to put eggs in the basket of something that we have no control over, right? Those are ping pong balls, and those are random odds, and it's luck, and you never like to just cast your fortune to that. That said, there are certain percentages played in the lottery, and we'll see where that goes. But that's months away. We're not thinking about that right now. Right now, it's about onboarding our new guys, letting our coaching staff get their arms around them, and we're really excited about our 2 young guys and what they can do for us. And by the way, the 2 veteran players that we brought in too are league-wide known to be just tremendous people, leaders, kind of the perfect vet guys that you want around a program that we're building now.
Okay, Keith Smith, Yahoo.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
How do you see RJ Hampton fitting in with Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony in the backcourt? Do you think those 3 guys can eventually get to a point where they can be on the floor together at times and form a partnership as your new backcourt?
Well, the first thing is I think they can all play together, and then beyond that, the way the league is trending these days, there are often 3-guard lineups, and RJ's a big, rangy, athletic kid, and so can you kind of play small with those 3? I think there may be times, but I'll let Cliff worry about that, and I think that's probably a more down the road discussion where we get to know RJ a little bit, and look, even Cole, what's Cole played, like 15 games? I mean, so we'll get to know these guys. They're both very, very hardworking, talented, competitive 20-year-olds, so I think our fans are going to really be excited by RJ, and RJ is a multi-position player. He's a 2-way player. He's going to be a high-level defender. He's got length and athleticism and speed, and he's a great worker. And I think that the one thing that we did assess, I don't know about all playing at the same time, maybe in today's NBA, yeah, but for sure they can all play together. And that's the most important thing, is that there's no combination that you can say like, well, we can't put these two guys on the floor in the backcourt.
Okay, James Hill, Black News Channel.
Good morning, Jeff. Can you talk a little bit about the new direction you're going in terms of Wendell, and certainly he has a tremendous upside. Do you see him as a cornerstone? And then also just the fact that it's a new era in Magic basketball, and we had some success with the ball club that, kind of changed yesterday. They went to the playoffs a couple of times, but going forward, can you talk about just the outlook and Wendell?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, let me first say that look at the Orlando Magic, Shaq and Dwight, the two teams that made it to the finals. Were number one picks, and those were teams that were built through the draft. And so, look, we've given ourselves a chance now to, I think, raise our ceiling, and it's going to take time. We've got to make good decisions. We've got to remain disciplined. But I believe that we're on a path now where we can dream big. And it's great that we made the playoffs the last couple of years. And as I said, I believe we could have been a home court team this year, but we have to be honest about the timeline of that team and the ceiling of that team. And so I think it was important when we got here for a team that had been struggling to make the playoffs and have success and show our young guys what that looks like. And we've done that. And now the time has come to make this move. So I'm really excited to be on this path. And there's a little bit of, swimming upstream is good in this league, when you're doing stuff that other guys aren't. And I think yesterday was a day where there were fewer sellers than in typical years. We assessed the market to be that way. And so that's why we felt we were able to get good deals done. And again, really excited to be in this position today. I think there's a new kind of fresh wind blowing through the organization, and we're armed with a lot of different ways and means to improve this team significantly as we go forward, some of which you guys have already alluded to. As to Wendell, look, man, Wendell's not 22 yet. He's an incredibly hard worker. He's a team-oriented guy. He's selfless by all accounts. I can't tell you some of the glowing intel reports that we put together in the last week or two on him. And he's a burgeoning player, man. He's got all the tools that you look for in a modern big. And so, we're just really excited to have him and get to know him and put him in a position to succeed.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Good luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Roy Perry, Orlando Sentinel.
Morning, Jeff.
Hey, Roy.
Just wondering if, when did you realize, or at what point did you get to when you realized this was the path you guys were going to go down, and also maybe what would be your message to fans at this point?
Well, I mean, my message to fans is clear. I think this is a great day to be a Magic fan. We wish our three guys the very, very best. And I know they're going to have success because they're all good players, and they're going to, some teams that are already good and some that are growing and will be better. And I know they're going to be good, but we're on a different path now. And our path is really exciting. And I think our path gives us upside, and it gives us a really bright future. So that's my message to the fans. As to when did we know we were going to do the deal? I always say, I know that it seems like we were busier than most years this year, and I will get back to that. We were, but we're always aggressive. We're always aggressive. It just doesn't seem that way because you might not be active. We put in the same amount of work every cycle, every draft, every trade deadline, but sometimes you don't make a deal and it's like, well, they're just sitting on their hands. Like, no, we're not sitting on our hands. We're working, but the deals just didn't line up. This one was particularly busy because we were actually working on double path deals, and we were having discussions about improving our team now and kind of like pushing more chips up. And we were also having discussions about this. Now, we were hoping that these discussions would come through, but if they didn't, we knew that we didn't want to just sit still. So these deals came through. in a way that we were excited about. And to line up 3 of them on one day, took a lot of work. And I want to say thanks to all of our people. They did an amazing job. And I have to say, it was doubly difficult this year with COVID restrictions. And, John and Matt and I went to the NCAA tournament for a week. So we were all spread out a little bit, and we were doing, midnight to 2 in the morning Zooms every night to kind of like regroup and talk about what information we had gathered from teams and where we were with deal points. And so it was particularly challenging, but I thought the process that we worked with this year was really functional, and it got us to a place where the day of the deadline yesterday, when we walked in, we felt that we had 3 deals that could really be executed. And, we were just really happy to be able to do that.
Okay, we have time for just a couple more. We're going to go Rob Parks, 48minutes.com.
Hey Jeff, how you doing? I know you talked about RJ Hampton already. I wanna talk about Gary Harris for a minute, because I know he can get buckets. I feel like that's a slept on pickup for you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. That's great. I tried to work that in a little bit earlier, but yeah, listen, man, like Gary and Otto, you guys know these are 2 highly respected NBA veterans, on the court and off the court. And you guys will see pretty quickly just their level of professionalism and example setting and messaging. And by the way, they're both really excited to be here. And so, yeah, so to your point, look, man, Gary Harris is a good player. Think about this. Otto Porter is on a $28 million contract. Gary Harris makes 21 next year. You don't get those if you can't play. These guys are good players, and they're great people, and they're excited to be here. And, Gary's, an elite level wing defender in this league. And, he's been hurt, but, we got a good one. We got a good one, and he's excited to be here. And so we look forward to, his presence, on the court, off the court, and, him being able to show what he can do. So I'm glad you asked that. I appreciate that.
Cody Taylor, Rookie Wire, USA Today.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. You mentioned RJ a little bit earlier. How important was it to get a player of his caliber back in that deal? And what kind of communication did you have with him during the pre-draft process, if any?
Yeah, well, I can tell you it was extremely, as a matter of fact, the deal we had been discussing, Denver was one of the teams that was interested in Aaron, and they were very reluctant to discuss RJ. And it wasn't until a couple of days before the deadline that his name started to be included in discussions. And that was a pivot point for us. When that started happening, we kind of latched onto those conversations. We were one of a few teams that were able to go down to Texas and visit RJ during the draft process. John and Matt and I went down. We were able to watch him work out. We had a bite with him, and man, you talk about impressive. I mean, I think RJ is a little under the radar because of his path, but you're talking about, a top 5 high school player coming out who goes to New Zealand. So he's kind of off the radar, the typical NBA fan. And look, and he's a 19-year-old playing with grown men, and those leagues are hard. You don't just walk into those places and dominate. They're physical. Those guys are rough and tumble. The games are called that way. And RJ had moments of flashes of brilliance and some rough times, but he comes back to the U.S. and he adds weight and he gets with his guys and he works with former Orlando Magic player Mike Miller, and so his shooting looks better, and he had a really good workout, and he is he's a really charismatic, smart, high energy kid, and I think our fans are going to really love him. And look, the guy's played 200 minutes in the NBA, so he's an unknown quantity, but he was one of the guys in the draft that we had targeted that has potential to far exceed the draft slot. And so I can't tell you how excited we are about him. And yeah, like the conversations with Denver definitely shifted when his name was included. And this is not a guy that they happily moved into this deal.
All right, final question goes to Ryan Welch, WKMG.
Good morning, Jeff. A lot of franchises, go through a deal, a good deal of success, and then they might have to hit the reset button. The Orlando Magic have obviously been through a lot of lean years in recent years, notwithstanding the 2 playoff appearances. Did that factor into the decision at all, or do you have to just treat it as, look, this is our time here. We need to just do what's best for the franchise?
It's a great question, Ryan. I would say this, it kind of factored in when we showed up. I felt like the last thing that the fans wanted to hear was a new guy showing up with a new rebuild on the heels of the old rebuild. So at that time, we did, I think, make that part of the evaluation process. But now, we're a couple of years past that. We are a playoff team, and I believe we would have been a playoff team again. And I believe that, I hope that our fans have the trust in us that we know how to get there. Our players have grown up experiencing playoffs, and now we're in a different place. Now, our players are older, the contracts are shorter. We're facing, a wave of injuries that the league really hasn't ever seen before. And so, yeah, like the math is a little different now than it was when we showed up, but that initially had been part of our, I think, calculations.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Again, Coach Clifford around 10:30, 10:45, and our new players, as many as we can get post game. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.